What's up, everyone? I'm Angelique from WSOU, and today I'm sitting down with Madame Mayhem to talk about her newest single and a bunch of other cool stuff. So to kick it off, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. So we're gonna just jump right into the questions. You've dropped 2 singles so far this year. You dropped Cruel Heart back in February, and you dropped I Am More this past September. Can you tell me a little bit what it was like trying to record during the pandemic?
Well, okay, so that's the funny part about these 2 specific songs is we actually recorded them right before the pandemic, and we were planning on releasing them in 2020 actually, and when the pandemic hit, we obviously held off on that, and so we weren't all able to get into the studio together since. So in the meantime, I figured that, we were in the process of creating all these songs to hopefully make a full-length album again, because we haven't made one in a while. And that's my favorite, way to digest music is full-length records. So, but I was just so excited to release these songs that I was like, nope, let's release them now. Let's give our fans something to look forward to, and for us something to look forward to. And so now they're out.
So does this mean that there isn't a full-length album, like prepped and ready to go, or we
are almost there. We got a few more songs to do, so we are close. And because we're only the first time I was able to see my whole band together since our last tour in February of 2020 was doing the music video for this new single I Am More, and it had been almost a full year at least, or something crazy like that. And so, now that we're all starting to be able to communicate and physically, rock out together again, we are in the process of finishing up all the cool projects we wanted to.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear that. I'm so looking forward to it. I loved Cruel Heart. I love I Am More.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could give us a little deep dive into your songwriting process and what that looks like when you go in to write something.
Yeah, absolutely. So the coolest part about songwriting that I have found doing it for forever, for as long as I can remember, is it's never the same way each time. You think you have your process, right? And you're going to go in, you're going to do something, but it always changes, whether it's a melody line that you can't get out of your head and you just need to get it out, and then it creates that way, or all my songs are based off of real life situations and frustrations and things that I go through. So if there's lyrics or a topic that I really want to get off my chest, I go into the studio that way. I love co-writing because I think it keeps me sharp and on my toes, and it's great to bounce ideas off of people. And so actually both Cruel Heart and I Am More were co-written with Keith Wallen from Breaking Benjamin. And so I was able to write these songs with this amazing songwriter. He also has an amazing solo career as well. And to be able to write with someone like that to help get, these songs that I really wanted to get out of me out was, fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, you talked a little bit about how when you have the melody stuck in your head, but you're classically trained. You attended both the Manhattan School of Music and Frost School of Music at U of Miami. And has that influenced the way you go about anything, or?
It definitely, I'll say it helps. When I was growing up, I just wanted to perform and work, and I didn't want to go to school. And my parents were like, you're going, but you can go for whatever you want. And so I went for music. So jokes on them. But it does help. And it helps not just with the songwriting process or the studio process, but, practicing, keeping my voice in shape when we're on tour, with the grueling schedules, things like that, things that, when I was in school, I kind of took for granted. It was like, oh, this is silly, and then now in the real world, I'm really implementing these things. So I think it's an advantage for sure.
Cool. And so in doing my little bit of research, I saw that when you were at U of Miami, you majored in theater and like music production or something along those lines. So do you have like musical inspirations and influences, and like do you try to channel them in what you do, or?
So yeah, I mean, I was a theater kid growing up in the New York, New Jersey area. You know, like when you're a young kid and you want to sing, and you know the first thing they're going to do is throw you in a musical theater performance, right? So you know, I definitely was brought up in the musical theater world and classically trained in opera, and so I learned a lot from, you know, Broadway performers. So I do have a lot of you know, there are a lot of actresses that I looked up to, Bernadette Peters, you know, Idina Menzel, like all these amazing people, Judy Garland, you know. But at the same time, I love rock and heavy metal. So, you know, I have those influences too. And, you know, growing up as a kid, listening to grunge and Soundgarden and Chris Cornell and all that has always been a huge influence on my life. And then, you know, when it comes time to write and create and to sing, though, I try really hard not to channel anyone or try. It's hard though, because, you know, when you hear something and you're so used to listening to your favorite artists, you know, I'm sure, you know, subliminally, sometimes things like that bleed through. However, the cool thing with when I'm writing, or I'm writing with, you know, with my team or whatever it is I'm always so focused on what the point of the song is, and I'm so overwhelmed with the emotion of what I'm feeling, or the frustration. It's usually frustration. You know, I'm usually mad about something. And so I'm usually so focused on that I'm not thinking about, you know, any outer influences coming into the song.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like, obviously I do my research. I know you're from the city. Everyone, like almost everyone in the city, like it's like they're like, oh, you like to sing? Musical theater. Oh,
it's always automatically.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I
So
want to be in a rock band, man.
they're
Yeah.
like, we have those venues, but try some musical theater first.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about writing Cruel Heart and I Am More, but you've collaborated and like co-written with literally everyone. You mentioned Wallen from Breaking Benjamin. You worked with Corey Lowry of Seether, Ray of Korn. Like, your Cruel Heart was produced by the legendary Johnny K. Like, what's it kind of like working with some of these like huge dudes? Like,
it's really cool. I'll be honest, like I'm very fortunate like that I've been able to, you know, convince these guys that I'm good enough to work with, you know. So I'm really fortunate, you know, that they liked my voice enough, you know, and they believed in me enough. They're like, okay, we'll work with you. So I thank them very much for that. And you know, working with these guys, especially when they've been in bands or they've worked with bands that I am like obsessed with, and that I was obsessed with growing up. It's really cool. You know, when I'm in the room, I try not to think about it. I try to, you know, okay, this is an equal person, but you know, sometimes you take a minute and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I try not to fangirl out. But you know, these guys that I've been working with for so many years, they have become like family to me. So it's really cool to think about. I don't really think about it too much now, but when you ask a question like that, I'm like, yeah, it's really cool, because these are bands that I'm like a fan of, and then to be able to work with these artists that are, you know, so intertwined with these bands, it's pretty awesome. I'm very lucky.
I feel like that all the time now, because I get the lucky experience of college radio, where it's like,
right,
oh, now you get to sit down and interview some of the artists like you've been listening to for like 10 years. And I'm like, you sure you want to let me do that? Are you sure? Like, sit back and think about this for a second. You want to let me go out and interview these people? Are you certain? But I always feel incredibly lucky. I feel incredibly lucky to be interviewing you right now.
oh, thank you.
And so you've like, obviously you've worked with guys from Seether, Breaking Benjamin, Korn, all these places, but you've been on tour with like Seven Dust and Fozzy and like all these other big bands. What's that like?
Oh, it's really cool. We've been really fortunate as well as a band, you know, that we get along with the people we've toured with, and everyone's been really cool with us. I think maybe in my entire career, there was just one situation where people weren't nice, but it wasn't with those guys. Like usually like the bigger they are, the nicer they are, which is great. And so it's really cool because everyone's just, we're all there to do the same thing. We're all there to put on a great show and interact with the fans, and we all have the same passion. So it's really fun to open for these amazing bands, as well as, if as an opening act, we perform, right? We do our thing. And then I jump off stage immediately, and I'm always running our merch because I just love meeting fellow rock lovers and meeting the fans. And that's kind of my thing. So we tried to have a merch person my first tour, and I was just standing there the whole time anyway. So we just scratched that. And I'm also our merch girl. But the coolest part with opening for those bands is I get to watch them every night. So I get to do my thing and perform, which is my favorite thing in the world. Then I get to go and watch these awesome bands like Seven Dust and Fozzy and, all these amazing bands, when I'm done. So it's pretty cool.
So is there any show that you've played or have like been to, anything like that like just stands out in your mind as like, oh man, that was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if anything could top that, like
that I've seen,
or like even that you've played in, or both.
I would, well, okay, so there are two. So we went to Bulgaria to play Hills of Rock, and we were one of the opening acts on the main stage for Judas Priest. So that was cool because, we're backstage and like Judas Priest is backstage and we're just like, oh, what do we do? These guys are like, this is legendary, right? So that was really cool. And of course, being in front of a crowd that huge was maybe one of the biggest shows we ever performed in front of. So it was a really magical moment for us. But then another awesome moment watching and singing was maybe performing with Seven Dust, because a couple of times I've been their surprise, female singer for their song Licking Cream, and that was always amazing. But there was one time when we were on tour and they were performing Angel Sun, and I was just backstage hanging out, and Clint was like, get on stage. So like Clint dragged me on stage, and like LJ was like looking like he was in the middle of performing, and here I am on stage. So it was kind of like this crazy surprise. And for me, watching them from backstage, like performing this amazing song that, always gets me and I'm like obsessed with. And then they're like, here's a mic. And you're like, oh, okay. That was surreal. That was surreal. Cause it's like a song that's always been playing in my head. I never thought I'd be able to sing it with the guys that actually, write it and perform it. So that was pretty awesome too.
Yeah. And so, you've been on tour with Seven Dust. You just told me that you performed on the same stage as Judas Priest. Like
crazy. And Iron Maiden played the next day. We stayed later because I was like, I have to see them play. Like these are legends here. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like dream tour lineup, you and who else, or even not like anything?
I just want to play. I don't even care at this point. I'm so excited to get back on the road. But no, it would be great to do like a bunch of female bands, even if it's not all female fronted. Like if there's a chick in a band who's a bass player or a drummer, like doesn't need to be because I don't like the whole female fronted band genre, because it's not a genre. We don't all sound the same at all, right? So you got to be careful with that. So I don't want one of those, but just something where, as much as I love the guys in my band, it'd be nice to see a chick out there once in a while, girl power. But otherwise, I just want to go out there and play. So yeah, that's basically it.
Right. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier. You're from the New York area. You're from the city. New York, New Jersey, ton of like outstanding venues. You got Starland out in Sayreville. You got Barry. You got Terminal 5. You have a favorite venue to like be in as an artist and like as a fan, or?
Anytime I get to play in New York or New Jersey, it's really special to me, whether it's like one of the bigger venues that we have, or even if it's like one of the really small dive bars that we have, because, it's where I started, and it's where, even if you don't know everyone in the crowd, everyone feels like the most familiar face in the world, and there's just this energy. So I really can't pick one, but I just love playing in this area. And I'll be honest, when we go on tours, for some reason, some of the tours don't come here. So when we do get to play here, it's funny. When I was starting out, all we did was play shows around here because this is where we're from. And now that we're touring, we barely ever get to play here. So any opportunity we can to play in New York, New Jersey, we take it.
You guys need it. Like, I think that the New York, New Jersey area has like probably the best like rock and metal scene. Everyone automatically tries to connect it with hip hop, which I understand, birthplace, but like we have so many great venues and so many great like fans. Like even if you don't see us on the street, we're all there. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
We should really talk to someone about that.
We really should. I'm down.
Get Madame Mayhem back to New York.
Yes,
we'll put you up in Starland. We'll put you up in like Terminal 5. PlayStation's not around. We'll put you in all the venues.
I'll do it.
Just New York tour.
Just the New York, New Jersey tour. Like I'll just go from
Asbury Park, Starland, Terminal 5. Oh, that'd be sick. And so this is kind of, it's a question I like to close with because everyone has like a weird answer that they don't, you know. It's like it's kind of a joke question, but if you weren't called Madame Mayhem, what would you be called?
Probably my real name, which is Natalie. It's funny because I don't say that name much, so even saying it feels weird because my parents came up with the name Madame Mayhem. So they've been calling me that kind of as a joke before I even had this career, because whether I caused it or not, mayhem would kind of follow me around for a bit. So
you were trouble.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people, even now, like not on camera, you know, they call me May or Mayhem. So to hear my name, Natalie, is weird, but it's still on my birth certificate. So I guess it would be, you know, I guess my real name would be what I would be called.
Would you be like just Natalie, like Madonna?
Nah, I'd probably do. When I was in musical theater, I included my middle name too. So I'd probably do like Natalie Ann. But when I started my career, you know, we were trying to go with that. And I realized you'd be surprised. There are so many like people who were trying to become, it was country artists actually. I was like, I don't want to be, I guess, Ann, I don't know. And that wasn't even like their real names. Like someone's real name was like Brittany and they were trying to go as like Natalie Ann. And I was like, no, that's actually my name. And it was like actually harder that way to use my actual name. So we just went with Madame Mayhem. There you go.
Childhood nicknames tend to work pretty well.
Yeah.
Like I've been getting called Trouble since I was allowed to walk. So
nice.
Yeah. I don't actually have any more preempted questions, but is there anything you want to like let the listeners know before we get out of here? Or
yeah, I mean, just keep in touch with me, social media. I'm around. I try to say hello to everyone as much as I can. I run all of our socials. And check out I Am More. I love this song. It means like the song has such meaning to me, and it's really about empowerment, and it's coming from a place where we are all stronger than we know. And I think it's really important, especially in times like these, that, you know, we remember that sometimes, because it's hard to remember it sometimes. And so definitely, if you haven't checked it out yet, please do let me know what you think, you know, write on my wall, whatever it is. And yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. So I just want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Super appreciate it.
Of course.